What's going on YouTube? This is AK and you're watching Vlogmore, and today I have a really cool groovy pistol that I wanted to cover. And it's groovy because in 2024 when it has been released, it's all the rage in the micro subcompact 380 category. So we're gonna go over it. So what am I talking about? Well, it's a Smith & Wesson, but not just any Smith & Wesson. No, this is the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. And I have to say, it's a very aesthetically pleasing pistol. I really do like this thing. It's gorgeous. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the pros of the pistol, the comparisons to the LCP Max, and then I got to get into some of the cons that I've noticed. And you can like it or dislike it, doesn't really matter. I have to report on the things that I experienced so that people who are looking at buying this pistol can make an educated decision as far as should they either grab one of these or an LCP Max, and who this pistol is best suited for. So let's get into it. First things first, as you can see, they have went away from the original design of the first Bodyguard. I think that Smith & Wesson has officially established their brand identity when it comes to the pistols, right? Because now this pretty much looks like a scaled down M&P Shield, really. You know, and I think it is very aesthetically pleasing. So we have forward and rear slide serrations. We have the forward stippling for your fingers to safely place them outside of the trigger guard. We have a flat trigger to help increase your accuracy when you're shooting such a small pistol, and surprisingly it is very accurate. We have the same type of grip that all the other, M&P pistols come with, and again, it just looks like a minimized version of a shield. So I'm glad they went with this design. It's very streamlined. It shoots very reminiscent of a full-size pistol, and I love it. Okay. Now, it does come with a very wide side or rear sight post, and it comes with a tritium sight here. The pistol does come with one 10-round magazine and one 12-round magazine. Now, that's where the comparisons with the LCP Max come in, right? Now, unlike the LCP Max, the Bodyguard 2.0 does come with the 12-rounder. With the Ruger, you got to go out and buy the 12-rounder, and I don't like that, because why are you having me spend more money when just put a 10 and a 12-rounder in there, okay? But whatever. So Smith & Wesson has the Ruger beat in that category for sure. Now, when we look at the comparisons here, I do think on camera, for some people, the Smith & Wesson can appear like it's slightly larger overall than the LCP Max. But the funny thing is, as far as in person, when you hold both pistols, at least in my opinion, the Ruger does feel larger. And I think the reason why is because it's more girthy here with the 12, or just with the magazine well inside, the way that they've designed it. You get more purchase on the grip. It's just kind of more blocky, like a Glock would be. Okay, as far as the length is concerned, the Smith & Wesson's like slightly longer, like ever so slightly longer, the slide or whatever. The dimensions seem like they're the same to me, but I will say this: the Smith & Wesson is way better quality built, you can tell, than the Ruger. The Smith & Wesson has a stainless steel slide, as opposed to the Ruger that has an alloy slide. So what ends up happening is that if you are a person that is religiously carrying the Ruger and you're not keeping up with your maintenance on the pistol, there might be the remnants of like rust starting to form. You don't want that to happen, obviously. You want to make sure you keep on top of oiling the Ruger. But with Smith & Wesson, because they do such a great job with their finish, if you're a really dedicated concealed carrier, this is going to be way easier to maintain because they did it right from the factory as far as the finish is concerned. Now, the upsides to the I would say Ruger, and as far as like some of the features, is, as you can see here, the rear sight post is a lot wider on the Smith & Wesson than it is on the Ruger. And when it comes to the front here, the front sights, the tritium sight on the Ruger is way more pronounced, way larger than the Smith & Wesson. And I gotta be honest, it's kind of silly to me how small the front sight post is on the 2.0 compared to the Ruger. I mean, it looks like a pinprick of light, really. I'm like, what's the point of having it when it's that small? It should have been the size of the Ruger. I think that would have really sealed the deal there, but oh well. So now, cons of the pistol. I think it mainly centers around the magazine. Now, if you look here at this magazine, the feed lips, you see how tight together they are? They're very close together. Now, when you compare that to the Ruger's feed lips are a lot more wide. They're a lot wider, as you can see here. So it makes for such a easier time loading the Ruger on the first magazine, or sorry, the first bullet, than it is with the Smith & Wesson. So it's not a huge deal, but for the first time I was like, oh, I kind of have to hit this at an angle to get that first round in there. It's a little bit annoying, but it's not a huge deal. Now, what is a huge deal to me is that for some reason, the way I guess my magazines came, only certain rounds I can load all of the advertised round count amounts in the mag. So like if I use one brand of FMJ, I can get 10 rounds loaded in here. I can get 12 rounds loaded in the 12 rounder. But if I use a certain type of hollow point, then all of a sudden I can only get 9 in the 10 rounder and like 11 or sometimes even 10 rounds in the 12 rounder. Don't know what that is. It seems like the spring tension's way too tight. That's been my experience. And it kind of annoys me to know that you gave me a 12 rounder, but I am yet to be able to load 12 rounds into the magazine by hand. Very frustrating. So I want to be able to load what was advertised. I mean, because with the LCP Max, I've never had that problem. All 12 rounds load quite effortlessly. It's really annoying. That's one thing. Number two, the disassembly of the 2.0 is very challenging if you're not familiar with breaking down and you know, reassembling firearms in general. The guide rod, I've never had that much trouble putting in a guide rod in a pistol ever before, and I've owned dozens of handguns, dozens of them, and this has been the most challenging to put the guide rod in here. I'm not the only one. I've read quite a few comments from people in other videos and in forums saying that, yeah, that guide rod is a real pain. And that's kind of disheartening for people that I'm about to talk about here in a minute. And then I would say the last thing that I am not too fond of is the feed ramp. Now, take a look in here. Here we have, if I can get a good angle right there. All right, so here's the feed ramp. Now notice that line right there. The feed ramp is basically separated in two different parts. The one part of the feed ramp is connected to the frame. The other part of the feed ramp is connected to the barrel. So we have a two-part feed ramp here. Now, the problem I have with this is that, so like, let's say my finger is like a normal feed ramp, right? Now here we have a round. The bullet is in the mag and then goes up the feed ramp into you know, the chamber, right? Well, with most pistols, that feed ramp, it's one piece, so it kind of makes it easier for the round to feed. But it seems like with the Smith & Wesson, it's like two pieces. So it kind of has to like traverse a gap like that. And I've noticed that with certain ammunition, hollow points to be precise, won't feed very well. So I had seen another YouTuber talk about he was using flat nose FMJ and he had a malfunction, and he thought that what was happening was that the bullet, as it was getting ready to be chambered, it got stuck in that gap. Now I had thought about it but didn't think it could be really possible, but what I've noticed is that kind of concerned me a little bit was I used the very first magazine I shot through the pistol. I had a malfunction. And it seemed like, and I was using this round, for those who do not know, this is critical duty. I like to use Hornady round in all my semi-automatics, whether it be American Gunner, Hornady Black, critical defense, critical duty. I've never had this round malfunction in any of my semi-autos ever. So from what it looked like when the round was getting ready to cycle, it seemed like it kind of got stuck in a way. Now I do notice the bottom feed ramp is a little bit more protruded than the top, which should eliminate that. It should just kind of like ride up like this, but it seemed like it had something to do with why it didn't feed. Now I tried another hollow point brand, what was it, by Winchester. It was like a Winchester defensive round. And as that round went up, like, so for example, this is a Remington, was it Golden Saber? This is more reminiscent of a regular FMJ, how contoured it is. As you can see here, see if I can, there you go. It's more reminiscent of a FMJ, like a regular FMJ. But you all know that some of these hollow points, the crater to the hollow point's very wide. And that kind of concerned me, and I tried it, and at the last round it seemed like it would get kind of jammed up there, and it happened every time. So it seems like with really wide hollow point rounds, there could be a chance that it could malfunction. Again, I don't see how, even though, you know, that bottom, because that bottom feed ramp is more protruded, and I know they probably designed it that way to make sure that it would just go up, you know, the feeder ramp like that, but I'm not sure. I just know that anything wide mouthed with the hollow points and anything too aerodynamic, like the critical defense rounds, like you can see here, anything like this, it just seems like to me when I tested the pistol, I had issues with it. So I went with Golden Saber for my defensive rounds because of the fact that it's more reminiscent of regular FMJ rounds, okay? So I had to throw that out there. So now, who is this pistol suited for, or best suited for? Well, it's designed really for everyone to shoot, but I think that it's better suited for an experienced shooter. Someone that is a consistent shooter, someone that knows their way around assembly and disassembly of handguns and rifles and what have you, and just manipulating firearms on a regular basis in general, because of the fact that, for one, a novice shooter, if you're trying to buy this for like your significant other, you know, let's say your mom, your daughter, whoever, and they're not a person that really shoots very frequently, they might run into some issues. I mean, if they're trying to load a 12 rounder, but they can only get 10 rounds in with one ammo, but then they can get 11 in with the other, that might fluster a new person. Now I get it. Learning a firearm for anyone is going to be a challenging endeavor. But why overcomplicate it when there's little bugs and kinks that need to be worked out? You know, especially if they're going to take the initiative to disassemble the pistol. These experiences of experienced shooters like myself having issues getting the guide rod back in when they were reassembling the pistol, I could see a person who's novice to reassembling a firearm just leaving the pistol disassembled, because it was very serious challenge for me to get it in initially, because I was like, why isn't this guide rod going like the other semi-autos that I have? So I could see a brand new person just being like, I don't know what's going on with this. I don't like it. I'm going to have to take it back to the FFL and get them to put it together for me. I could see that happening to someone out there. Even if it's just one person, I can see it happening. You know, and third, I've had to test at least 6 different ammunitions through this pistol. And I'm glad I did, because, you know, 2 of the 6 had a consistent, you know, issue. And, well, one of them, so I guess 3, and one of them did malfunction once. It was another hollow point. But it only happened once, but it still concerned me. So, a new shooter, they're probably just going to buy a box of ammo, and then that's going to be it. They're going to load the gun up, probably put it in the nightstand or start carrying it, and you don't really know for a fact if it's going to work, because the tolerances of this pistol are so tight. I mean, I hear YouTubers joke around about how this Ruger LCP Max sounds like a maraca when you shake it, but with this one, it's quiet, because the tolerances are so tight. The other rattle was my my bracelet, but those tolerances on this are way looser. I think why it seems like it just takes more ammo, like it's more versatile with that kind of stuff, especially as far as feeding the ammunition. The feed ramp on the Ruger is just one piece, right? It's just one solid piece. And so if you see here, as opposed to the segmented, you see how that's just one piece there? So that's the reason why, as opposed to this, like, I could see the Ruger being an easier pistol for a first-time shooter. So I think the Smith & Wesson is for people like us who shoot frequently. We don't have any issues navigating, you know, little slight inconveniences in design and tight tolerances. This is my primary carry pistol now over the Ruger, so it is my favorite carry pistol. Carry it every day, love it. But again, for a new shooter, I would probably steer them towards an LCP Max if they just wanted a 380 to carry and maybe use as a home defense weapon. That's just my take. But overall, this is the best 380 subcompact or micro 380 that I've ever fired. It's very accurate. Other than being finicky with certain hollow point ammo, it's very reliable and I love it. So I hope that y'all enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and make sure to like and subscribe. See y'all later. Peace.